The rain hammered against the cracked pavement like bullets, each drop a tiny explosion that soaked through my threadbare coat and into my bones. I could barely see through the downpour, but I didn't need to. I knew every corner of this god-forsaken street by heart. 10 years in this city, and I'd never managed to climb out of the gutter where life had thrown me. "Mommy, I'm cold." Lily's small voice cut through the storm, her fingers clutching the hem of my soaked dress. "I know, baby. Just a little longer." I pulled her closer, sheltering her small body with mine while Marcus pressed against my other side. My twins. My everything. At 5 years old, they deserved so much more than this. More than standing outside Romano's, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, hoping some wealthy patron would drop a few bills into my trembling hands. The smell of garlic and expensive wine wafted through the ornate doors each time they opened, a cruel reminder of the world I'd never belonged to. My stomach growled, hollow and aching. We hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. A single apple split 3 ways. I adjusted the cardboard sign around my neck, the ink running in the rain. Single mother of twins. Anything helps. God bless. God. I almost laughed at the word. What God would let my children suffer like this? A black car pulled up to the curb. No, not just any car. A Rolls-Royce, sleek and lethal-looking, with windows so dark they seemed to absorb light. The rain cascaded off its polished surface like it was beneath its dignity, to let water touch it for long. My heart hammered for a different reason now. Cars like that meant money, real money. The back door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, with shoulders that filled his custom suit like armor. An umbrella appeared instantly, held by a mountain of a man in black who'd emerged from the passenger seat. But my eyes stayed locked on the first man. He was perhaps 40, with salt and pepper hair swept back from a face that looked carved from marble, all sharp angles and hard lines. A scar traced his left eyebrow, giving him a perpetually dangerous expression. He wore a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life, and when he moved, there was a predatory grace to it, like a panther deciding whether to pounce or pass by. The scent hit me even through the rain. Expensive cologne, something dark and woody with hints of leather and smoke. It triggered something in my memory, something I'd buried so deep I'd convinced myself it never happened. He paused on the sidewalk, and I felt his gaze sweep over me. I should have looked away. Women like me didn't make eye contact with men like him, but something held me frozen, and when his eyes met mine, the world tilted. Those eyes, ice gray and penetrating, capable of stripping away every defense, every pretense. I'd seen them before, in darkness and candlelight, above me and filled with something that might have been hunger or possession or both. No, it can't be. 10 years ago, I'd been a different person. Young, stupid, working as a server at a hotel bar during a medical conference. He'd been there, powerful even then, dangerous even then. And when he'd approached me with that same predatory grace, I'd known I should run. Instead, I'd followed him to his suite. One night. That's all it was supposed to be. One night of feeling wanted, of touching luxury, of pretending I was someone who mattered to someone who mattered. I'd left before dawn, knowing better than to imagine it could be anything more. Girls like me didn't get fairy tales with men like him. Then, I'd discovered I was pregnant. Twins. And the father was a ghost. No name, no number, just a memory of gray eyes and hands that had held me like I was something precious before the sun revealed the truth. I was just another temporary amusement. Now those same eyes were locked on mine, and I watched recognition flicker across his face like lightning. "Mommy?" Marcus tugged at my hand, and the spell broke. The man's gaze dropped to my children. First Marcus, then Lily, and I saw his entire body go rigid. Even the bodyguard noticed, shifting slightly, hand moving toward his jacket. The children looked up at their father without knowing it. Marcus had his sharp jawline, his serious expression. Lily had those same gray eyes, though hers were warmer, kinder. I watched the calculation happen behind those cold eyes. I'd seen him do math before, in the hotel room when he'd asked my age, when he'd checked his watch, when he'd decided I was worth his time. Now he was counting backward, and I knew the exact moment he reached the answer. His lips parted slightly, the only sign of shock on that controlled face. "Mr. Caruso, your table is ready." A man in a crisp suit appeared in the restaurant doorway, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air like electricity. Caruso. After all these years, I finally had a name. Cancel it. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Deep, commanding. The kind of voice that expected obedience and got it. "Sir?" I said cancel it. He didn't look at the man, didn't look at the bodyguard. His eyes stayed fixed on me with an intensity that made me want to run. "Marco, bring the car around back. Clear the private dining room. Mr. Caruso, we have," the restaurant manager started. "Now." A single word, barely above a whisper, but it sent the manager scurrying. The bodyguard Marco moved instantly, speaking into a wire at his wrist while his eyes scanned the street with professional paranoia. "You three, come with me." Caruso's voice was calm, but there was something underneath it, something barely leashed. I shook my head, pulling my children closer. "We're fine. Thank you, but..." "You're standing in a storm, soaking wet, with hungry children." He took a step closer, and I caught that scent again, stronger now, mixing with rain, and something uniquely him. "That's not fine. We don't need..." "What you need is irrelevant." Another step. He was close enough now that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "Those children need to be dry, fed, and we need to talk. I don't know you." The lie tasted bitter. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Memory, maybe, or recognition of my lie. 10 years ago. The Grand Meridian Hotel, presidential suite. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the rain and the bodyguard and my children. "You left before I woke up. I looked for you." My heart stopped. "You... what?" "I looked for you." He said it like it was obvious, like it should have been expected. "The hotel had no record of your employment. No one knew your real name. You disappeared." "I didn't disappear. I left." I lifted my chin, trying to find some dignity in my soaked, desperate state. "It was one night. That's all it was supposed to be." His jaw tightened. "And yet, here you are, with 2 children who have my eyes. They're mine." The words came out fierce, protective. "I've raised them alone. We don't need anything from you. You're begging in the rain." The truth of it hit like a slap. I felt tears mix with the rain on my face. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was small, confused. Caruso's expression softened, barely, just a fraction, when he looked at her. Then it hardened again as he turned back to me. "You have 2 choices. Come inside, get dry, feed your children, and we talk. Or stand here in your pride while they freeze." I hated him in that moment. Hated him for being right, for having the power to help when I had none, for looking at my children and seeing his claim in their faces. But more than I hated him, I loved my babies. "Fine." The word felt like surrender. He nodded once, sharp and satisfied, then turned and walked toward the restaurant's side entrance. Marco appeared beside us, not touching, but close enough to hurt us in the right direction. I took Lily and Marcus by the hands and followed, each step feeling like walking toward something I couldn't come back from. The side entrance led through a pristine kitchen where chefs in white coats froze at the sight of us, me dripping and ragged, my children wide-eyed, Caruso striding through like he owned the place. Maybe he did. Men like him owned everything. We emerged into a private dining room that looked like something from a movie. Crystal chandeliers, mahogany walls, a table set for 12 with china so delicate it looked like it would shatter if you breathed on it wrong. "Sit." Caruso gestured to the chairs. I helped the twins into seats, acutely aware of the water pooling beneath us, ruining the expensive carpet. A woman appeared, older, kind-faced, with towels and blankets. She wrapped them around my children without a word, her movements gentle and practiced. "Food for the children," immediately. Caruso's order was directed at someone I couldn't see. "Soup, bread, nothing too heavy. They need to eat slowly." He'd noticed. Somehow, in the chaos, he'd registered that my children were too thin, that feeding them too much too quickly would make them sick. The woman left, and suddenly, we were alone. Me, my children, and the man who'd unknowingly made me a mother. Caruso pulled out a chair across from me, sitting with that same predatory grace. He didn't speak, just studied us with those cold, calculating eyes. "What do you want?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "The truth." He leaned back, somehow managing to look both relaxed and ready to strike. "Are they mine?" I could have lied. Maybe I should have. But looking into those gray eyes, the same eyes that stared back at me every day from my daughter's face, I couldn't find the words. Yes. The single syllable hung in the air like a verdict. His hands, resting on the table, curled into fists, their names. "You don't have the right, their names." Each word was its own sentence, carved from ice. Marcus and Lily. I pulled them closer, irrational fear rising in my chest. They're 5. And they're mine. I've been their only parent, their only protection, their only... "You've been letting them starve." His voice was still quiet, but there was rage underneath it now, carefully controlled. "You've been begging in the rain instead of coming to me. I didn't know who you were. You were just some man in a hotel. I told you my name." Had he? That night was a blur of too much wine and too much wanting, of feeling beautiful for the first time in my life, and knowing it would end with the sunrise. Maybe. I don't remember. Another lie. But I held his gaze. And even if I had, what was I supposed to do? Show up at some Mafia boss's door with a positive pregnancy test? I regretted the words the instant they left my mouth. His expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "So you do know who I am. Everyone knows who you are." It was true. Alessandro Caruso wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous, powerful, connected, the kind of man whose name appeared in newspapers with words like alleged and investigation and no charges filed. The kind of man who made people disappear. "Then you know what I'm capable of." He leaned forward, and I smelled that cologne again, mixed with danger and dark promises. "You know what I could do to someone who kept my children from me." My blood turned to ice. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm stating facts." His eyes flicked to Marcus and Lily, who were watching with confusion and fear. His expression softened again. That same barely perceptible shift, but not in front of them. The door opened, and servers entered with covered dishes. The smell of chicken soup, fresh bread, and roasted vegetables filled the room. My stomach clenched painfully. "Eat," Caruso ordered my children, his tone gentler now, slowly. They looked at me for permission. I nodded, and they fell on the food like the starving children they were. I wanted to tell them to slow down, to remember their manners, but how could I when they were so hungry? Caruso watched them eat with an expression I couldn't read. Was it regret? Anger? Possession? A plate appeared in front of me, the same soup, the same bread. My pride wanted me to refuse, but my empty stomach won. I ate, trying to maintain some dignity, while inhaling the first real meal I'd had in days. When the twins finally slowed down, their plates half empty, Caruso spoke again. "How did this happen?" He gestured at me, at our situation, at the poverty that clung to us like a second skin. "You were working at the Grand Meridian. They pay well. I was fired." The words came out flat. "When they found out I was pregnant." No reference, no severance. I was just gone. "And the father?" His voice had gone cold again. "Did you try to find him?" I met his eyes. I didn't even know his last name. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or anger at himself. "You should have tried harder." The unfairness of it made me laugh, a bitter sound that startled my children. I should have tried harder. I was 22, pregnant with twins, and fired from my job. I tried to survive. That's all I could do. You failed. The blunt cruelty of it stole my breath. I stood up, chair scraping against the floor. "Come on, babies, we're leaving. Sit down." Not a request, a command. "You don't get to..." I said sit down. His voice hadn't risen, but the authority in it pinned me in place. "Those children are mine. That means you're mine now too, and what's mine I protect. The words should have frightened me. They should have sent me running. Instead, they sent heat flooding through my body, memory and present colliding in a way that made my head spin. "I'm not yours," I said. But the words came out weaker than I intended. He stood, and suddenly he was close. Too close. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Could smell that cologne and rain and something dangerous. "You became mine the moment you carried my children." His hand came up, fingers gripping my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. "You just didn't know it yet. Let go of me." I tried to pull away, but his grip was firm, unyielding. "No, simple. Final. I lost you once." I searched for months after that night. I had people checking every hotel in the city, every restaurant, every hospital, and then I gave up, thinking you were just another woman passing through. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, and I hated the way my body responded, the way I trembled under his touch. "I won't make that mistake twice." "Mommy?" Marcus's voice cut through the tension. Caruso released me instantly, stepping back, his expression carefully neutral as he looked at his son. "It's all right. Your mother and I are just discussing arrangements." "Arrangements?" I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling exposed and vulnerable. "You and the children will come home with me tonight." He said it like it was already decided, like my opinion was merely a formality. "No." "Yes." He pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. "Marco is already preparing rooms. You'll have everything you need. Clothes, food, safety. We're not moving in with you. You're living on the street." He looked up from his phone, and his eyes had gone cold again. "Or near enough. Where are you staying?" I didn't answer, but he read it in my silence. "Where?" The single word cracked like a whip. "A shelter," I whispered. "When there's room. Sometimes we sleep in the subway." I watched something break in his expression. Just for a second, just a flash, before the mask returned. "That ends tonight." He moved toward the door. "Marco will drive you. I have business to attend to, but I'll be home by midnight. We'll discuss the details then. You can't just..." He turned, and the look in his eyes stopped my protest cold. "I can. I will. Those children sleeping in subways, begging in rain, going hungry, that ends now. You can hate me for it, fight me on it, but it ends. Do you understand?" I understood. I understood that I'd just walked into a cage disguised as salvation. I understood that Alessandro Caruso didn't make offers, he made decrees. And I understood, with sinking certainty, that everything had just changed. Why? The question came out small, desperate. "Why do you care? You didn't even know they existed until 20 minutes ago." He paused at the door, his hand on the frame. When he looked back, his expression was different, raw, almost human. "Because they're mine," he said simply, "and I protect what's mine. Even if it takes 10 years to find it again." Then he was gone, leaving me standing in a room that smelled like expensive food and danger, with my children looking at me with questions I didn't know how to answer. The woman from before reappeared, her smile warm, but her eyes knowing. "Come, dear. Let's get you and the little ones cleaned up properly. Mr. Caruso's driver is ready whenever you are." I looked at Marcus and Lily, at their full bellies and warm bodies, at the hope starting to bloom in their eyes. I'd walked into the storm looking for spare change. Instead, I'd found their father, a man who terrified and intrigued me in equal measure, who'd just claimed ownership of our lives with 3 simple words. "You're mine now." And God help me. I didn't know if that was my salvation or my doom. The car ride to Caruso's estate felt like traveling to another world, one I had no business entering. Marco drove in silence, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors with the practiced paranoia of someone who'd seen too much violence. The Rolls-Royce glided through streets I barely recognized, leaving behind the broken sidewalks and graffiti-stained walls of my neighborhood for tree-lined avenues, where even the air seemed cleaner. Lily had fallen asleep against my side, exhausted from the emotional upheaval and full stomach. Marcus stayed awake, his serious gray eyes, his father's eyes, taking in everything with an intensity that made my chest ache. He was too young to be so watchful, so wary. But survival had taught him early that the world wasn't safe. "We're here, ma'am." Marco's voice startled me from my thoughts. I looked up and felt my breath catch. The estate wasn't just a house, it was a fortress disguised as luxury. High walls surrounded the property, topped with cameras that probably cost more than a year's rent. The gate swung open silently as we approached, revealing a long driveway that curved through manicured gardens lit by subtle ground lighting. The house itself rose from the darkness like something out of a dream or a nightmare. 3 stories of pale stone and large windows, with columns framing the entrance like sentries. It was beautiful and imposing in equal measure, exactly like the man who owned it. "Holy shit," I whispered, then immediately covered my mouth, glancing at Marcus. But he was staring at the house with the same awe I felt. Marco pulled up to the front entrance where a woman waited, mid-50s, with steel-gray hair pulled into a neat bun, and an expression that managed to be both warm and efficient. She opened my door before Marco could, offering her hand. "Mrs. Chen," she introduced herself. "I manage Mr. Caruso's household. Welcome." The title felt wrong. I wasn't a guest. I was a captive dressed up in kindness. But I took her hand anyway, helping Lily out while Marcus scrambled after us. "Thank you," I managed, feeling completely out of my depth. "The children must be exhausted." Mrs. Chen's gaze softened as she looked at my twins. "I've prepared rooms for all of you in the East Wing. There are clothes, toiletries, everything you'll need." Mr. Caruso was very specific about his requirements. I bet he was. Everything about Alessandro Caruso screamed control, from the way he'd commanded the restaurant to clear, to how he'd decided our entire future in the span of 20 minutes. The inside of the house was even more intimidating than the outside. Marble floors reflected the light from crystal chandeliers. Original artwork hung on walls painted in rich, warm tones. A curved staircase swept upward, the banister gleaming with polish. I felt dirty just standing there, my wet shoes squeaking on the pristine floor. "This way." Mrs. Chen led us up the staircase, down a hallway lined with more expensive art, to a set of double doors. "The children's rooms." She opened the doors to reveal a space that made Lily gasp. It was a bedroom suite, 2 connecting rooms decorated in soft blues and creams, with beds that looked like clouds, a play area with toys still in their packaging, and windows overlooking the gardens. Everything was new, untouched, waiting. How? I turned to Mrs. Chen, confused. "He only knew about them an hour ago. Mr. Caruso makes things happen quickly when he wants something." She smiled slightly. "He called ahead. We made arrangements. Like snapping his fingers and creating an entire children's wing was normal. Like having the money and power to transform a space in under an hour was just another Tuesday. There are pajamas in the drawers, sized appropriately. Bathroom is through there. I've run a bath. Take your time." Mrs. Chen moved toward the door. "Your room is just next door. I'll show you once the children are settled." She left before I could form a response, and I stood there in this palace with my traumatized, exhausted children, feeling like Cinderella after midnight. Except I was still in rags, and the prince was a monster. "Mommy, is this real?" Lily whispered, touching one of the stuffed animals on the bed with reverent fingers. "I think so, baby." I knelt down, pulling both of them close. "Listen to me. This is temporary, okay? Just until Mommy figures things out." "I like it here," Marcus said, his voice small. "It's warm." The simple statement broke something in me. My 5-year-old son was grateful for warmth. Basic, fundamental warmth. What kind of mother had I been, unable to provide even that? "Let's get you both cleaned up." I blinked back tears, forcing brightness into my voice. "Then you can sleep in those big, comfortable beds." The bath was a production. They weren't used to so much hot water, so many bubbles, towels so soft they felt like velvet. I washed their hair with expensive shampoo that smelled like lavender, and watched the dirt and grime of our life swirl down the drain. Their skin glowed pink and clean when I finally lifted them out, wrapping them in towels that could have doubled as blankets. The pajamas fit perfectly, soft cotton decorated with stars and moons. Someone had guessed their sizes exactly. Or maybe Caruso had that information somehow. The thought sent a chill through me. How much did he know? How much had he learned in the hour since we'd met? Story? Lily asked as I tucked them into their respective beds, her eyelids already drooping. Tomorrow, I promise. Tonight you just sleep. Will we stay here tomorrow? Marcus's question was careful, like he was afraid to hope. I don't know, sweetheart. I kissed his forehead. But tonight you're safe and warm and fed. That's enough for now. I stayed until they fell asleep, which took less than 5 minutes. They were so exhausted, so overwhelmed, that sleep claimed them instantly. I watched them breathe, their small faces peaceful in a way I rarely saw, and felt the weight of every decision pressing down on me. A soft knock on the door made me jump. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, her expression understanding. Your room? I followed her next door to another set of double doors. My room, because apparently I had a room now, was elegant and understated. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, dressed in white linens that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. There was a sitting area with a fireplace, a desk by the window, and a bathroom visible through an open door that looked like something from a spa. There are clothes in the closet and dresser, all your size. Mrs. Chen moved to the dresser, opening drawers to reveal neatly folded items. Mr. Caruso was very specific. He said you'd refuse charity, so I'm to tell you these are merely practical necessities. How does he know my size? The question came out sharper than intended. He's very observant. She met my eyes steadily. And he wants you comfortable. I'm not his prisoner. No, ma'am, you're not. But something in her tone suggested that distinction was thinner than I'd like. However, Mr. Caruso will be home soon, and he's requested you join him in his study. I'd recommend a shower first. There are fresh towels, and I've laid out something appropriate for you to wear. Appropriate for what? A meeting with a crime lord who'd decided to claim ownership of my life. But I was still wearing my soaked, ragged clothes, and the thought of hot water was too tempting to resist. Fine. Where's his study? I'll escort you when you're ready. Mrs. Chen moved toward the door, then paused. Miss, may I speak freely? I nodded, wary. Mr. Caruso is not an easy man. He's hard and he's used to control, but I've worked for him for 15 years, and I've never seen him act like this, calling ahead, demanding preparations, actually showing emotion. She looked at me with something like pity. Whatever happened between you two, whatever those children mean to him, it's changed something. Be careful, but don't assume you know who he is based on rumors. She left before I could respond, and I stood in that beautiful room feeling more lost than when I'd been on the streets. The shower was almost offensive in its luxury. Multiple shower heads, water pressure that felt like a massage, soaps and shampoos in scents I couldn't even name. I stood under the scalding water and let myself cry, finally, where no one could see. Cried for the life I'd lost, for the years of struggle, for the impossible situation I'd stumbled into. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that felt like a cloud, I found the outfit Mrs. Chen had mentioned laid out on the bed. A simple dress, black, elegant, with a modest neckline, and hem that fell just below my knees. There was underwear, too, all in my size, all new. It felt intimate in a way that made me uncomfortable. Caruso had thought about what I'd wear underneath my clothes. He'd made decisions about my body without asking. But my old clothes were ruined, and I had no alternatives, so I dressed in what he'd provided and tried not to feel like I was putting on a costume for his benefit. The dress fit perfectly. Of course it did. I dried my hair with a towel. There was a hairdryer, but I didn't know how to use something so expensive without breaking it, and left it damp and wavy around my shoulders. No makeup, no jewelry. Just me, clean and dressed like someone who belonged in this world. The mirror showed a stranger, a woman who looked almost elegant, almost refined, almost like someone who could stand next to Alessandro Caruso without looking like a mistake. Almost. Mrs. Chen appeared exactly when I opened my door, as if she'd been waiting. This way, please. We descended the staircase and moved through the house to a wing I hadn't seen yet. The decor here was darker, more masculine. Wood paneling and leather furniture, the scent of cigars and old books. She stopped before a heavy wooden door. He's inside. Knock before entering. She left without another word, her footsteps fading down the hallway. I stood there, hand raised to knock, heart pounding. Behind this door was the man who'd turned my life upside down, first 10 years ago when he'd made me believe I could be wanted, then tonight when he'd proven I was right to never believe in fairy tales. I knocked. Enter. His voice came through the door, commanding even muffled by wood. I pushed it open and stepped into Alessandro Caruso's private domain. The study was exactly what I'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk that looked carved from a single piece of mahogany, leather chairs arranged by a fireplace where flames crackled and danced. But it was the man behind the desk who captured all my attention. He'd changed from his suit into dark slacks and a black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows revealing forearms corded with muscle and traced with scars. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. A glass of amber liquid sat at his elbow. Whiskey, probably. Expensive enough to cost more than a week's worth of meals. He looked up as I entered, and those gray eyes swept over me with an intensity that made me want to cross my arms over my chest. Close the door. He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace. Sit. I did both, sinking into one of the leather chairs and trying to ignore how small I felt in this room, in this house, in his presence. He remained standing, leaning against his desk, arms crossed over his chest. The pose should have looked casual, but on him it looked threatening, contained violence waiting for a reason to unleash. The children are asleep? His question was gruff, almost concerned. Yes. They were exhausted. Good. He took a sip of his whiskey, his eyes never leaving mine. We need to discuss arrangements. I'm not staying here. I made my voice firm, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. I appreciate what you did tonight, the food, the clothes, the rooms, but my children and I will find our own way. No. You don't get to just... I do. He set down his glass with a sharp click. You seem to be laboring under the misapprehension that you have choices here. Let me clarify. Those children are Caruso's. That means they stay under my roof, under my protection, where I can ensure their safety and well-being. They're my children. They're our children. He leaned forward, and suddenly he was close enough that I could smell his cologne again, mixed with whiskey and smoke. You had them alone, raised them alone, suffered alone, and I hate that. I hate that you went through that without me. But that ends now. From this moment forward, Marcus and Lily are under my protection, which means you are too. I don't want your protection. I don't care what you want. The bluntness of it stole my breath. What I care about is that my children were begging in the rain tonight. My children were living in shelters. My children were going hungry. That will never happen again. You keep saying your children like you have some claim. I have every claim. His hand shot out, gripping my chin again like he had in the restaurant, forcing me to meet his eyes. I may not have known about them, but they carry my blood, my name. And in my world, that means everything. Let go of me. I tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. Not until you understand. His thumb traced my jawline, a gesture that was somehow both threatening and intimate. You walk out that door, take my children, try to disappear again. I will find you. I have resources you can't imagine, connections everywhere. There is nowhere you could go that I couldn't reach. Do you understand? Fear and something else, something hot and unwelcome, curled in my stomach. You're threatening me. I'm promising you. He released my chin, but didn't step back. Stay. Let me provide for our children. Let me give them the life they deserve. And what about me? The question came out smaller than I intended. What happens to me in this arrangement? Something flickered in his eyes, heat, possession, memory. You stay here, safe, protected. You want for nothing. As what? Your prisoner? As the mother of my children. He straightened, putting space between us that felt both like relief and loss, and as someone who owes me 10 years of their lives. The accusation hung in the air between us. I didn't know how to find you, I whispered. You didn't try. He moved back to his desk, refilling his whiskey glass. You disappeared. Made yourself invisible. denied me the chance to be a father. You were a one-night stand, the words burst out of me, angry and hurt. What was I supposed to think? That you'd want some pregnant waitress showing up, claiming you owed her something? Yes. He slammed the glass down, amber liquid sloshing. That's exactly what you should have thought. Because despite what you believe, despite what your pride told you, I would have taken care of you. I would have been there. How was I supposed to know that? You were just some rich man slumming it at a hotel bar. I told you my name. His voice had gone dangerously quiet. I told you what I did, and you ran anyway. Had he? That night was such a blur of alcohol and overwhelming sensation, of feeling wanted for the first time in my life. I remembered his hands, his voice, the way he'd looked at me like I was precious. But his name, his occupation? I don't remember, I admitted, convenient. It's the truth. I stood, anger giving me courage. I was 22, drunk on expensive wine you kept pouring, overwhelmed by a man who looked at me like I mattered. Forgive me if I didn't take detailed notes for future reference. We stared at each other across the study, tension crackling between us like electricity before a storm. You looked at me tonight and recognized me immediately, he said finally, his voice rough. Don't tell me you forgot. I didn't forget your face. I didn't forget. I trailed off, heat flooding my cheeks. Didn't forget what? He moved toward me, and I backed up until I hit the bookshelf. Didn't forget how I touched you, how I made you feel, how you came apart in my hands. Stop. But the word came out breathless. Why? He was close now, so close I could feel the heat of him, could count the gold flecks in those gray eyes. It's the truth. You remember, just like I remember. I remember every sound you made, every gasp, every time you said my name, Alessandro. His name fell from my lips without permission, and I watched something dark and satisfied cross his face. See? You do remember. His hand came up, fingers threading through my damp hair. 10 years, and I never forgot you. Never forgot how you felt, how you tasted. I looked for you everywhere. Why? My voice was barely a whisper. Why would you bother? You could have anyone. Because you were different. His forehead pressed against mine, and I felt his breath on my lips. You looked at me like I was just a man. Not Alessandro Caruso, not the heir to the family business, not someone to fear or use. Just a man you wanted. When did anyone last look at me like that? I didn't know who you were, exactly. His lips brushed my temple, and I felt myself trembling. You wanted me. Not my name or my money or my power. Just me. And now? I forced myself to ask, even as my body betrayed me, leaning into his warmth. Now I know what you are. Now I'm here because you commanded it. That's not wanting you. That's being trapped by you. He pulled back, and I saw anger flash in his eyes. You think I want you trapped? You think I like knowing the only reason you're here is because you have no other choice? Then let us go. No. The word was final, absolute. I told you. What's mine, I keep, and like it or not, you're mine now. You have been since the moment you carried my children. That's not how this works. In my world, it's exactly how this works. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair in frustration. You don't understand what you've walked into. My name, my family, there are enemies. People who would use you, use the children to get to me. Now that I know they exist, now that anyone could have seen us together tonight, they're targets. The words sent ice through my veins. What? You think I'm keeping you here out of possessiveness? Out of some need to control? He laughed, bitter and harsh. I'm keeping you here because it's the only way to keep you alive. I sank back into the chair, my legs suddenly weak. You're saying we're in danger. I'm saying you became dangerous the moment you were seen with me. He moved to his desk, pulling out a phone and typing rapidly. I have people checking now, seeing if anyone noticed, if anyone got photos. The restaurant is secure, but the street outside, he trailed off, his jaw tight. We may have time. We may not. This is insane. I pressed my hands to my temples, trying to process. A few hours ago, I was just trying to get enough money for food. Now you're telling me we're targets for what? Rival crime families? The movies lied, right? This isn't actually how it works." His expression was grim. "The movies didn't lie enough. It's worse than you can imagine. Then let us go. Let us disappear. We were invisible before. You were vulnerable before." He came to kneel in front of my chair, his hands gripping the armrests, caging me in. Street cameras, cell phone videos, facial recognition. The world isn't as anonymous as you think. And now that I've acknowledged you, now that I've brought you into my home, you're marked. The only thing keeping you safe is my name and my protection." I stared into his eyes and saw the truth there. He wasn't lying to manipulate me. He was genuinely afraid, not for himself, but for us. "What have you done?" I whispered. "What I had to." His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized I'd shed. "I won't apologize for protecting my family. I won't apologize for keeping you where I can keep you safe. We're not your family. You are now." He stood, pulling me up with him. "Tomorrow, my lawyers will start the paperwork. I'm claiming Marcus and Lily as my legal children, which means providing for them, protecting them, giving them my name. You can't just—" "I can. I will." His hands moved to my shoulders, steady and warm. "And you can hate me for it. You can fight it. But you'll do it from here, where you're safe, where our children are safe. That's not negotiable." I wanted to argue, wanted to scream, wanted to run. But looking at him, at the determination in his eyes, the protective fury barely leashed, I knew it was pointless. Alessandro Caruso had decided we belonged to him, and men like him didn't accept no for an answer. "I need to see my children." My voice came out hoarse. "Of course." He released me immediately, stepping back. "Mrs. Chen will show you back to your rooms. Tomorrow we'll discuss more details. Schooling, security, everything they'll need." I moved toward the door on shaking legs, needing to escape his presence before I did something stupid like cry or, worse, lean into his strength. And his voice stopped me at the threshold. I looked back. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth. I'm sorry you had to suffer alone. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm sorry your life became this hard." The apology, unexpected and genuine, hit me harder than any of his commands. "It wasn't your fault," I found myself saying. "I made choices too. Choices I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for." His expression was serious, intense. "To them and to you. That's a promise." I didn't know how to respond to that, so I left, closing the door on Alessandro Caruso and his impossible promises. Mrs. Chen waited in the hallway, as if she'd known I'd need guidance back. We walked in silence until we reached my room. "The children haven't stirred," she said softly. "They're safe here. Whatever else you believe, know that." I nodded, not trusting my voice, and slipped into my room. Through the connecting door, I could hear Marcus and Lily breathing softly in their sleep. I stood in the doorway watching them, my babies, safe and warm and fed, and felt something crack inside my chest. Alessandro Caruso had stolen our freedom tonight, but he'd given us something I'd been unable to provide: security. And I didn't know if I should hate him or thank him for it. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? In a bed so soft it felt like floating. In a room so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I was used to the sounds of the city, sirens and shouting, the rumble of trains, the constant reminder that the world kept turning even when you were drowning in it. Here, there was only silence. Oppressive, suffocating silence that left too much room for thinking. Around 3 a.m, I gave up and went to check on the twins. They were sprawled across their beds like starfish, blankets kicked off despite the perfectly regulated temperature. I covered them again, kissed their foreheads, and tried not to think about how easily they'd adapted to luxury. Children were resilient like that, adaptable. They'd survived homelessness with me, and now they'd survive wealth with their father. The words still felt foreign, impossible. I was heading back to my room when I heard it. A sound from downstairs, faint but distinct. Footsteps. My heart jumped into my throat. Was someone breaking in? Did Alessandro's enemies work this fast? I crept to the staircase, staying in the shadows, and peered down. Alessandro stood in the foyer, still dressed in his dark clothes from earlier, speaking in rapid Italian to Marco. His voice was low and urgent, his body language tense. Marco nodded, responding in the same language, and I caught words I recognized from my grandmother. Pericolo, danger, protezione, protection, bambini, children. They were talking about Marcus and Lily, about threats. Alessandro's hand slammed against the wall, the sound echoing through the quiet house. Non perderò un altro figlio, he said, his voice ragged with emotion I hadn't heard before. I won't lose another child. Another child? Marco placed a hand on Alessandro's shoulder, speaking quietly. Whatever he said seemed to calm him slightly. Alessandro nodded, dragging both hands through his hair in a gesture of frustration and exhaustion. Then his eyes lifted, finding me in the shadows at the top of the stairs. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he said something to Marco, who disappeared through a doorway, leaving us alone. You should be sleeping. His voice carried up the stairs, rough with fatigue. So should you. I descended slowly, my bare feet silent on the marble. What did you mean? Another child? His expression shuddered immediately. You were eavesdropping. I heard shouting. I thought someone was breaking in. I reached the bottom of the stairs, and in the dim light from the hallway, I could see the exhaustion carved into his face. What did you mean? It's not your concern. You're talking about my children in Italian at 3 a.m. It's absolutely my concern. We stared at each other, and I watched him wage some internal battle. Finally, he sighed, the sound heavy with old pain. I had a daughter, 12 years ago. His voice was flat, emotionless, but I heard the agony underneath. She was 6. Her mother was someone I thought I could trust, someone outside the family business. He moved to the window, staring out at the dark gardens. One of my enemies found out, took her, demanded ransom. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh my God. I paid. Everything they asked. His reflection in the glass was haunted. But they killed her anyway. Killed her mother too. Left them where I'd find them. Alessandro. I moved toward him without thinking, my hand reaching for his arm. Don't. He stepped away before I could touch him. Don't pity me. That's not why I told you. Then why did you? He turned to face me, and his eyes were raw. So, you understand. So you know why I can't let you leave. Why I can't risk them being out there, unprotected. I've lived through that loss once. I won't survive it again. The weight of his confession pressed down on me. This wasn't just about control or possession. This was about a father who'd lost everything once and would do anything to prevent it happening again. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Her name was Sophia. A small, sad smile crossed his face. She loved butterflies, used to chase them in the garden, tried to catch them in her hands. She never could. Tears burned my eyes. She sounds beautiful. She was. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the vulnerability he kept hidden beneath all that controlled violence. When I saw Marcus and Lily tonight, when I realized what they were, it was like being given a second chance I never thought I'd get. I know I'm going about this all wrong. I know I'm terrifying you, controlling you, but I can't lose them. I can't. You won't. The promise fell from my lips before I could stop it. I'll keep them safe. No. He closed the distance between us, his hands framing my face. We'll keep them safe. Together. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. His touch was gentle despite the intensity of his words, and I found myself leaning into it, craving the comfort and strength he offered. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of you, scared of this world, scared of what staying here means. Good. Fear keeps you alert. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. But know this, I will never hurt you. I will never let anyone hurt our children. Whatever else I am, whatever you believe about me, that's the truth. How can I trust that? Time. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine like he had earlier. Give me time to prove it. Stay. Not because I'm forcing you, but because it's the right choice for Marcus and Lily. And what about what's right for me? What's right for you is being somewhere safe, where you don't have to beg in the rain, where you can sleep without worrying about where your next meal comes from. His voice dropped lower, intimate. What's right for you is letting someone take care of you for once. The offer was tempting. God, it was so tempting. To surrender, to stop fighting, to let someone else be strong. But surrender meant giving up control. And control was all I'd had for 10 years. I need time, I said finally. Time to think, to process. Can you give me that? Of course. He released me, stepping back, and I immediately missed his warmth. Tomorrow, I'll have Mrs. Chen show you the grounds, help you get oriented. The children can explore, adjust. We'll take it slowly. Thank you. He nodded, then hesitated. There's something else. My family. They'll want to meet you. My mother especially. Your mother? The thought terrified me. She's formidable. But she'll love Marcus and Lily. Grandchildren mean everything in our culture. A slight smile touched his lips. Fair warning. She'll probably try to feed you constantly and ask invasive questions about our relationship. What relationship? We don't have a relationship. His smile widened slightly, becoming something dangerous and promising. Not yet, but we will. The certainty in his voice sent heat flooding through me. We're not. Go to bed. He gestured toward the stairs, before I say something else that makes you want to run. I should have argued, should have established boundaries, made it clear that whatever had happened between us 10 years ago was over. But looking at him in the dim light, seeing the exhaustion and pain and hope in his face, I couldn't find the words. So I went upstairs, climbed into that impossibly soft bed, and lay awake thinking about Alessandro Caruso and his dead daughter and the impossible situation we'd stumbled into. Somewhere around dawn, I finally fell asleep, and I dreamed of butterflies in gilded cages, beautiful and trapped and utterly unable to fly free. Morning came with sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover, and the sound of children's laughter, a sound so rare and precious it pulled me from sleep like a lifeline. I found Marcus and Lily in their room, already dressed in new clothes that fit perfectly, playing with toys they'd only ever seen through store windows. Mrs. Chen sat in a chair by the window, watching them with a grandmother's indulgent smile. "Good morning," she said softly, not wanting to disturb their play. "I hope you don't mind. I heard them wake and thought I'd help them dress." "Thank you." I felt like I should be embarrassed, like I'd failed some maternal test by not waking first. But exhaustion still clung to me like cobwebs. "Mr. Caruso has arranged for breakfast on the terrace. He thought the children might enjoy eating outside." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "He's already there, waiting." Of course he was. Alessandro Caruso struck me as a man who controlled every detail, orchestrated every moment. The terrace was breathtaking, a stone patio overlooking manicured gardens that stretched toward a distant tree line. A table was set with fresh fruit, pastries, eggs, and more food than 3 people could possibly eat. And at the head of it sat Alessandro, dressed casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes look like storm clouds. He stood when he saw us, his gaze sweeping over the twins with an intensity that was almost painful to witness. This wasn't just a man looking at children. This was a father starved for something he'd lost, desperate to memorize every detail. "Good morning." His voice was softer than I'd heard it, gentler. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes." Lily ran toward him without fear, and I held my breath, waiting to see how he'd react. Alessandro knelt down, bringing himself to her level, and his expression transformed into something almost tender. "I'm glad. Are you hungry?" "Very hungry," she said seriously. "Mommy says we can eat as much as we want now." Something flickered in his eyes, pain maybe, or guilt. "Your mother is right. You can have anything you want." Marcus approached more cautiously, hanging back slightly. Alessandro noticed, and instead of pushing, he simply offered his hand. Would you like to sit next to me? I thought we could talk about things you like." My son studied his father with those serious gray eyes, Alessandro's eyes, before slowly taking his hand. The gesture was small, tentative, but I saw Alessandro's throat work as he swallowed hard. Breakfast was surreal. We sat at this table laden with luxury, my children eating slowly and carefully, like they still couldn't believe the food wouldn't disappear, while Alessandro asked them gentle questions about their favorite colors, animals, games. He was patient, never pushing, letting them warm to him at their own pace. And they did warm to him. How could they not? He gave them his full attention, listened to every word like they were discussing matters of state, and looked at them like they hung the moon. "Mommy says you're our daddy," Lily announced suddenly, her voice cutting through the comfortable conversation. "Is that true?" Alessandro's gaze lifted to meet mine, and I saw the question there. "How much have you told them?" "Yes," he said simply, looking back at Lily. "I am your father." "Where were you?" Marcus asked, his tone accusatory in the way only a child's could be. "Why weren't you with us before?" I opened my mouth to intervene, to protect Alessandro from the question, but he held up a hand, stopping me. "That's a fair question, and you deserve an honest answer." He set down his coffee cup, giving Marcus his full attention. "I didn't know you existed. Your mother and I, we met a long time ago, but then we lost touch. She didn't know how to find me, and I didn't know about you. But now that I do know, I'm going to be here. Every day. I promise you that. But we don't know you," Marcus said, his voice small and uncertain. "You're right. You don't." Alessandro's expression was serious, respectful. "So we'll get to know each other. We'll take our time. And if you have questions, or if you're scared, or if you need your mother, that's okay. I'm not going anywhere." The maturity of his response, the way he treated my 5-year-old son as someone worthy of respect and honesty, made my chest tighten. "Can we see the garden?" Lily asked, apparently satisfied with the explanation. "Mrs. Chen said there's a pond with fish." "Of course." Alessandro stood, and I noticed he moved carefully, like he was afraid of spooking them. "Would you like to see it now?" They nodded enthusiastically, and I watched as he led them down the terrace steps toward the garden paths, pointing out flowers and listening to their excited chatter. He didn't try to hold their hands or force affection. He just walked beside them, patient and present. Mrs. Chen appeared at my elbow. "He's good with them." "He is." I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. "He was good with Sophia, too. Before—" She trailed off, then caught herself. "I shouldn't speak of it. He told me. Last night, I watched Alessandro crouch down to show Lily something in the flower bed. About his daughter." Mrs. Chen's expression softened with sympathy. "Then you understand why he's like this, why he needs them safe." "I understand." I turned to her. "But I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know how to be whatever he expects me to be. Be yourself. Be their mother." She patted my hand. "The rest will come." But would it? Could I really stay in this gilded cage, accept Alessandro's protection, and maintain any sense of myself? A phone rang. Sharp and insistent. Alessandro pulled it from his pocket, his expression darkening as he listened. He said something quick and harsh in Italian, then ended the call. When he looked at me, I saw carefully controlled fury in his eyes. "Mrs. Chen, take the children inside now." His tone brooked no argument. Mrs. Chen moved immediately, calling to Marcus and Lily with false cheerfulness, leading them back toward the house despite their protests. Alessandro crossed to me in quick strides. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Someone took photos last night, outside the restaurant. You, me, the children." His jaw was tight. "They're already circulating in certain communities." Fear sliced through me. "What does that mean?" "It means people know now, about you, about them. It means I need to move faster than I planned." He pulled out his phone again, typing rapidly. "I'm having my lawyers expedite everything. Legal recognition, name changes, security details. And we need to talk about your past." "My past?" "Anyone you were involved with, anyone who might have reason to target you. Any connections that could be exploited." His eyes were cold now, calculating. "I need to know everything so I can protect against it." There's no one. The truth felt pathetic. I've been alone since the twins were born. No relationships, no friends, just survival. Something in his expression softened. What about their biological father? The man you were with before me? I stared at him, confused. Before you? There was no one before you. He went very still. What? You were my first. Heat flooded my face. My only. There's never been anyone else. The change in his expression was dramatic. Surprise melting into something darker, more possessive. You mean to tell me that in 10 years? I had 2 children to raise alone. When exactly was I supposed to date? I crossed my arms defensively, and even if I'd had time, who wants a woman with twins and nothing to offer? I do. The words were immediate, fierce. Christo, you have no idea what you're telling me right now. What am I telling you? He closed the distance between us, his hands gripping my arms. That you're mine, completely. That no one else has touched you, claimed you, had you. Just me. That's not... You can't just... I can, and I am. His forehead pressed to mine, and I could feel the tension radiating through his body. Do you understand what this means? In my world, in my culture? You carried my children, raised them alone, stayed faithful without even knowing what we could be. That kind of loyalty, that kind of dedication, it's everything. I wasn't being loyal to you. I didn't even remember your name, but you remembered me. His hand cupped my face, enough not to let anyone else touch you. Enough to keep yourself for me, even unknowingly. You're insane. But my voice lacked conviction, probably. A small smile curved his lips. But you're mine now, and I'm never letting you go. You understand that, don't you? Before I could answer, Marco appeared at the terrace doors, his expression urgent. Boss, we have visitors. Your mother and brothers. They're at the gate. Alessandro swore in Italian. Perfect timing. Your family? Panic seized me. I'm not ready. Too late. He took my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. Stay close to me. Let me handle them. And whatever happens, remember, you're under my protection. They can't touch you. Why would they want to touch me? His expression was grim, because you're an outsider who just became the mother of the next generation of Carusos. They're going to have questions, strong opinions, and they're not known for being gentle about it. He led me back into the house, his hand never leaving mine, and I realized with dawning horror that facing Alessandro Caruso had been the easy part. Now, I had to face his family. The Caruso family arrived like a storm. Loud, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. Alessandro's mother swept through the front door first, a tiny woman in her 60s with perfectly coiffed silver hair and sharp black eyes that missed nothing. She wore elegant clothes that screamed old money and moved with the confidence of someone who'd commanded respect her entire life. Behind her came 2 men who were clearly Alessandro's brothers. They had the same sharp features, the same predatory grace, though one was broader and the other leaner. Both watched me with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. Alessandro, his mother's voice carried through the foyer. You summon us at dawn with cryptic messages about grandchildren, and you make us wait at the gate like common visitors? Mama. Alessandro moved forward, kissing both her cheeks. I have security concerns, you understand. What I understand is that you've been keeping secrets. Her gaze locked onto me, and I felt stripped bare under that assessment. And you must be the mother of my grandchildren. There was no warmth in her tone, no welcome. Just cold evaluation. This is... Alessandro started, but I cut him off, finding my voice. My name is Sarah. I lifted my chin, refusing to be cowed. And yes, I'm the mother of Marcus and Lily. Sarah. She repeated my name like she was testing it, finding it lacking. No last name, no family, no history. Mama, enough. Alessandro's voice held warning. Sarah is under my protection. That makes her family. Family? The broader brother, I didn't know his name yet, laughed harshly. Brother, you can't expect us to just accept some woman who appears out of nowhere with children she claims are yours. Claims? Alessandro's voice went deadly quiet, and I felt the temperature in the room drop. Are you questioning the legitimacy of my children, Dante? So that was Dante. The brother took a step back, hands raised in surrender. I'm just saying we should be careful. DNA tests, background checks, have already been ordered. Alessandro's arm came around my waist, pulling me against his side in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. The children are mine. One look at them confirms it, but if you need scientific proof, you'll have it by tomorrow. And what about her? The leaner brother spoke now, his tone less aggressive but no less suspicious. What do we know about her? Where she came from, what she wants, who she might be connected to? Luca. Alessandro's patience was clearly wearing thin. You're speaking about the mother of my children. Show some respect. Respect is earned, their mother said sharply. You cannot blame us for being cautious, Alessandro. After Sophia, don't. The single word cracked like a whip. Don't you dare use my daughter's name to justify treating Sarah like a threat. Then help us understand. His mother moved closer, her eyes never leaving mine. Where did you meet? How long have you known each other? Why are we only learning about these children now? I felt Alessandro tense beside me, preparing to defend me. But something in me snapped. I'd survived 10 years on the streets, raised 2 children alone, endured poverty and hunger and endless struggle. I wasn't going to hide behind Alessandro while his family interrogated me like I was a criminal. We met 10 years ago, I said clearly, stepping slightly away from Alessandro to face them on my own. One night, at a hotel bar, I was working. He was there for business. We spent the night together, and I left the next morning. I didn't know I was pregnant until weeks later, and by then, I had no way to find him. I didn't even know his last name. The silence that followed was deafening. You're saying you had a one-night stand with my son, got pregnant, and never bothered to track him down? His mother's voice dripped with disdain. How convenient. Convenient? I laughed, the sound bitter. There's nothing convenient about raising twins alone while working 3 jobs. Nothing convenient about choosing between feeding your children or keeping a roof over their heads. Nothing convenient about begging in the rain because you've run out of options and pride doesn't feed hungry babies. You were begging? Dante looked shocked, almost disgusted. Yes. I met his gaze without flinching, because sometimes survival means swallowing your pride and doing whatever it takes. Your brother found us last night, standing outside a restaurant in the rain, and he recognized me. Recognized that Marcus and Lily were his. That's the truth, whether you believe it or not. Alessandro's mother studied me with new intensity. You raised them alone for 5 years. Yes. No help from family? From the father? I have no family, and I didn't know how to find Alessandro. I felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. I did the best I could with what I had. Which was nothing, Luca observed, not unkindly, which was my children and my determination to keep them alive. I lifted my chin. I may not have money or connections or a prestigious last name, but I kept them safe. I kept them fed. I kept them loved. Can any of you say you'd have done better in my position? The question hung in the air, and I watched something shift in their expressions, particularly in Alessandro's mother. Show me the children, she said finally. I want to see my grandchildren. Alessandro looked at me, and I saw the question in his eyes. Are you okay with this? I nodded, though my heart hammered against my ribs. They're in the playroom with Mrs. Chen. I'll get them. I found Marcus and Lily playing with building blocks, Mrs. Chen reading nearby. They looked up when I entered, and the normalcy of it, my children, safe and happy, gave me strength. There are some people who want to meet you, I said gently. Your daddy's family, your grandmother and uncles. More family? Lily's eyes went wide. We have a big family now? It seems like it. I helped them to their feet, straightening their clothes. Remember your manners? And stay close to Mommy, okay? They nodded solemnly, and I led them back to the foyer where the Caruso family waited. The moment Alessandro's mother saw them, her entire demeanor changed. Her hand flew to her mouth, and I saw tears spring to her eyes, the first genuine emotion I'd witnessed from her. Dio mio, she whispered. They look exactly like you did, Alessandro. Exactly. Marcus hung back, uncertain. But Lily, my brave, curious Lily, walked right up to her grandmother. Are you our nonna? The Italian word came out perfectly, though I'd never taught it to her. She must have heard it somewhere, absorbed it somehow. Yes, bambina. Alessandro's mother knelt down stiffly, her hands trembling as she reached toward Lily's face. Yes, I am your nonna. And you are beautiful. Both of you. Marcus edged closer, drawn by the emotion in her voice. Mommy says we have a big family now. The biggest, Dante said, his voice rough. He'd moved closer too, staring at the twins with something like wonder. Madonna, they're really his. Look at those eyes, Luca. I see them. Luca was smiling now, the suspicion gone. Welcome to the family, kids. Hope you're ready for chaos. What happened next was overwhelming. Alessandro's mother pulled both twins into a gentle embrace, speaking to them in rapid Italian mixed with English, asking about their favorite foods, their toys, everything. Dante and Luca crowded around, making jokes and trying to coax smiles from the children. And Alessandro stood beside me, his hand finding mine, his grip tight and warm. They accept them, I whispered, hardly daring to believe it. They're Caruso's. His voice held satisfaction and relief. Blood means everything to this family. Once they saw Marcus and Lily, there was no question. And me? I looked up at him. Do they accept me? They will. He pulled me closer. Because you're mine, and what's mine is protected, always. His mother stood, brushing tears from her eyes, and approached us. Up close, I could see the resemblance to Alessandro, the same sharp intelligence, the same steel underneath the elegance. Sarah. She said my name differently now, with something approaching respect. You raised good children. Strong, healthy, polite. That tells me what kind of mother you are. Thank you. I didn't know what else to say, but you need to understand something. Her voice dropped, becoming serious. This family has enemies, dangerous enemies. By becoming involved with Alessandro, by bearing his children, you've put yourself in their crosshairs. Are you prepared for that? I don't have a choice, I said honestly. Alessandro has made it clear we're staying. Good. A small smile curved her lips, because if you'd said anything else, I would have questioned your intelligence. My son doesn't let go of what he claims, and he's claimed you and those children. The only question is whether you're strong enough to survive in this world. I survived 5 years of poverty raising twins alone. I met her gaze steadily. I think I can handle your world. She laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. I think you might be right. Welcome to the family, Sarah. May God help you. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Alessandro's family stayed for hours, getting to know the twins, asking me questions that ranged from invasive to oddly touching. His mother, who insisted I call her Rosa, started planning immediately. Schools, tutors, clothes, parties to introduce the children to the extended family. It was overwhelming and exhausting and strangely wonderful. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone. There were other adults sharing the burden of childcare, offering opinions and help and support. By the time they left, the sun was setting, and Marcus and Lily were exhausted from the attention. I put them to bed early, reading them a story from one of the many books that had appeared in their room, and watched them fall asleep with smiles on their faces. When I emerged, Alessandro was waiting in the hallway. They're asleep. His voice was soft. Yes, completely exhausted. I closed the door gently. Your family is intense. That's one word for it. He smiled slightly. They liked you. My mother especially. She doesn't give approval easily. She's terrifying. She is. His smile widened. But she'll protect you now. She'll protect all of you. That's what accepting you into the family means. We stood in the hallway, and I felt the weight of the day pressing down on me. The fear, the confrontation, the overwhelming acceptance. Alessandro. His name felt natural now, easy. What happens now? What does our life look like going forward? He moved closer, his hand coming up to cut my face. That depends on you. On me. I want you to stay, not because you're trapped, not because you have no other options, but because you choose to. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. I want to give you time to know me, to see that I'm more than the man who controls and commands. I want Marcus and Lily to have both parents together, building something real. And what about us? The question came out whisper soft. What are we to each other, right now? Parents to our children, two people learning to navigate an impossible situation. His forehead pressed to mine, but eventually, I want more. I want what we started 10 years ago, what we never got to finish. I want to know you, Sarah, really know you. Your favorite color, your dreams, what makes you laugh, what scares you, everything. That's a lot to want from someone you barely know. I know enough. His voice was fierce. I know you're strong and brave and devoted. I know you survived hell to protect our children. I know that 10 years ago, you made me feel something I'd never felt before, and seeing you again brought it all back. That's enough to start with. And if I can't give you more than co-parenting, I had to ask, had to know. If I can't be what you want, then we'll figure it out together. He pulled back slightly, meeting my eyes. I'm not going to force you into anything. I'm not going to demand you fall in love with me or play happy family if that's not what you want. But I am going to be here, every day, showing you who I am, proving that you can trust me, and maybe, eventually, you'll want more too. The honesty of it, the patience he was offering, made my throat tight with emotion. I'm scared, I admitted. Of this world, of you, of how much power you have over my life now. I know. He kissed my forehead gently, but you don't have to be scared alone anymore. We're partners now, whether you're ready for that or not. Partners. The word felt both comforting and terrifying. Okay. I took a deep breath, making a decision that would change everything. Okay, we'll try. For Marcus and Lily, we'll try to build something here. For Marcus and Lily, he agreed. And for us. Then he kissed me, soft and careful, asking permission with every movement. And I kissed him back, tasting possibility and danger, and something that might eventually become love. When we finally broke apart, he smiled against my lips. 10 years ago, I let you walk away. I'm not making that mistake again. Good. I surprised myself by smiling back. Because I'm not running this time. No, I took his hand, threading my fingers through his. I'm staying. I'm fighting. For my children, for myself, for whatever this could become. I'm done running. Then welcome home, Sarah. His grip tightened, possessive and protective. Welcome to the family. Welcome to the chaos. Welcome to the rest of our lives. And standing there in the hallway of his fortress mansion, with my children sleeping safely nearby and this dangerous, complicated man holding my hand, I realized something. I was home. Not because of the house or the luxury or the security, but because for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't facing the world alone. We had a long road ahead, learning to trust, building a relationship, navigating the dangers of his world. But we take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, one decision at a time, together. The storm that brought us back together had passed. Now came the work of building something strong enough to weather whatever storms lay ahead. And as Alessandro led me downstairs to share a quiet dinner, just the two of us, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maybe fairy tales didn't exist. Maybe I'd never be a princess, and he'd always be part monster. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something real from the wreckage of our past. Something worth fighting for, something worth staying for, something that looked, against all odds, like family.